Moving on, it's the Zachariah Tiemann Show, and it's the fourth time asking. So, hey, okay, well, you got the uptick, so here we go. And this one's a bit of a proposition. He says, on the conservative side, we hear a lot about the 17th Amendment and how it neutered the Senate. I've done quite a bit on that. But almost nothing about how the number of seats in the House was frozen in 1929 when our population was roughly a third of what it is today. The Constitution dictates that the smallest number of people required to add a House seat is 35,000. If every state had one representative per 35,000 people, the House would have 8,800 seats. With all of this in mind, is it not safe to say that the House is not functioning as intended? And what would be a better number of representatives than 435? Wow. That's a really great, profound question. Since I never really thought about this before, I'll give it to you kind of as it comes to me, Zechariah, hence the fun of this show, right? I think my response would be that what we're really talking about is a fineness of mesh. It's like a sensitivity issue. Just off the top of my head, I saw a really compelling argument. You'll see where I'm going with this, hopefully. Very compelling argument that said that Celsius is a great scale if you work in a laboratory, but the Fahrenheit scale is a much better scale for human beings. After all this lecturing from all these people about the metric system, this person's argument was that the Fahrenheit scale for everyday life for human beings is far superior to the Celsius scale. And he went into a lot of detail about it, but basically what he was saying was this. I love this argument. He said on the Fahrenheit scale, 0 degrees Fahrenheit is very, very cold, and 0 degrees and 100 degrees Fahrenheit is very, very hot. 0 is very, very cold, 100 is very, very hot. He said on the Celsius scale, 0 degrees Celsius is pretty chilly, 32 degrees. 100 degrees Celsius, you're dead. You've probably been dead at 55, 60 degrees Celsius. And on the Kelvin scale, 0 degrees is you're dead, and 100 degrees is you're dead. But in Fahrenheit, it's 100 degrees of deviation between really cold, 0 degrees is 32 degrees below freezing, and 100 degrees is a pretty hot day. So I thought that was pretty impressive argument. Now, the reason I bring that up is because certainly the Fahrenheit scale gives us several degrees of temperature in between a degree of Celsius. The Celsius scale is, in terms of habitable scale, pretty much 0 to 50. Fahrenheit 0 to 100, so probably a couple more. So I guess where I'm going with this is this: the more representatives you have in the House, the finer the degree of representation per specific neighborhood, not just state, per specific neighborhood. So on some level, I think it'd be great. I'd love to see on some level increasing and refining that difference. But with that said, I don't know if pretty much a 9,000 seat House is really a good idea. I mean, there comes a point where it is simply just too unruly. I mean, it's hard enough getting 435 people into a room. Just think about seating 9,000 people, and of course you'd lose the House of Representatives chamber, which has a great deal of tradition with it too. So I don't know. I think on some level you can kind of make the case that you probably need to freeze it somewhere. You don't want it to look like the Imperial Senate in Star Wars. I think a bigger issue with the House, to be honest with you, I just can't imagine a 9,000 seat House. I can't imagine how anybody would get to speak. I can't imagine how the committees would work. To me, on a lot of levels, it seems like you'd have less representation simply because you'd have fewer chances to speak, to persuade people. The 9,000 people writing bills, my God, aren't we in enough trouble with 435 people writing bills? I mean, so there's some arguments to be made for the way things are. What I will say, I think, however, is this whole idea of gerrymandering, I would say, has to go. And so how do you get rid of gerrymandering? For those of you who don't know, gerrymandering is the ability to say, well, these are the people in our district, but we're going to draw the lines, we're going to draw this kind of weird jigsaw kind of shape so that we get every single black person or every single white person or every single Hispanic. You're just trying to pack all of your votes into one area so you can win the seat. And I think the only way that you can get around gerrymandering, and I would be in favor of this, would be the only thing that doesn't have an opinion. You could say, well, the Democrats are gerrymandering for a liberal House seat, and the Republicans are gerrymandering for a slightly less liberal House seat. But I think the only way you could really do it would be to do it with, as I say, something that doesn't have an opinion. And the only thing that I know of would be lines of latitude and longitude. I mean, the equator doesn't have an opinion, and the lines of longitude don't have an opinion. I think that all congressional districts ought to be drawn according to lines of latitude and longitude. And there you go. Now, I don't know how you'd weight that for population, but I guess they've got that figured out already. In any event, I would say that the biggest problem with the House right now is not the limited number of representatives. I'd say the problem with the House is how congressional districts are drawn. I just always thought it was wrong, and always thought it was just, irrational and unfair, and one of these kind of institutionalized forms of cheating that everybody winks at. And it's a kind of, there isn't, or at least there wasn't, a great deal of corruption in American politics, certainly relative to the rest of the world, but this is one of those things that's been kind of built into America for a long time, this business of drawing our congressional districts to get the vote we want. It offends me on mathematical and it offends me on, just philosophical issues. Just seems wrong. I think there's got to be a better way. Anyway, there goes Zechariah. There's our fourth time asking, and we always try to get questions on at least the fourth try.